you can hear me nice and clearly. I'm on my way to London, per usual. And it's been a really, really fantastic week working with two of my clients, and kind of like what the title suggests, I'm gonna just sort of fill you in on like how their week has been, and just kind of give you the lowdown of really what they've learned and what I think they've learned, and what I'm going to cover with them, once I'm officially all wrapped up with them. So to just give you a bit more context, God, it's so warm as well. Just to give you some context, I had two guys back to back doing my 7-day anxiety desensitization training, which essentially is just kind of taking the guys out. Day 1 and 2 is usually the filming and feedback. So day number 1, I go out with guys for 4 hours and I film them doing cold approaching, and then I can obviously kind of give them a bit of coaching whilst they're doing it, but ultimately just to really see where they're at. And I love it because I can see and meet guys who are at very, very different stages with their social skills and social interactions. And it then means on day number 2, I can sit with them in a coffee shop and then I can give them that feedback that they need to make changes. Now, already one of the biggest learning curves that both of these guys have understood from me is how I tend to pull them away from the pickup paradigm. That I want them to experience chaos in conversations. I don't really want them to be using lines and routines of dating coaches that they follow on YouTube or anywhere else, or maybe even people they've worked with. I want to bring out the authentic conversations and get them to just freely express themselves, because that's like one of the most liberating things, when you can go up to someone who you're genuinely attracted to and just say, like, what stood out to you that you're really, really attracted to, what brought you over, and why you would have regretted it had you not. So the guys, definitely. Actually, to give even more context, I've got one guy 1 year old. I'm going to keep them anonymous. One guy's 31 and the other one is double his age almost. He's 61, 62. I always keep forgetting, but he's 61, 62 years old. And I have huge admiration for both of them because they reached out for sort of different reasons, but also kind of similar reasons. They both wanted to get into the field of cold approaching and get some experience in it and learn how to go about and do it on their own, because it's my job to just essentially just get them comfortable going up to a stranger and striking a conversation. And in fact, I'm not even really worried about the outcome. I'm not even really worried, if they're getting phone numbers or dates even. And in fact, there's a bit of like a reverse psychology thing that plays out, where the less you worry or the less you focus on being so outcome dependent, the more results you get, the more outcome dependent you actually get. The more results you get, the more phone numbers and stuff, because you're not worrying about that end goal. So I've been really impressed with both of the guys, and they've both got slightly different social issues as well. Now, one of them is going to be very kind enough to do a interview with me, so we're going to be able to talk about his experience, and I need to ask the older gentleman as well. Now, the older gentleman started slightly earlier than my younger client, and because of certain circumstances, he's had to just reschedule his last 2 days, which would have been yesterday evening and tonight. But my other client has followed through for the whole of this week, which is great. I'm always very flexible with people, and to be honest, if someone's 61, 62, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt if they've got things going on that they need to have sorted. But they have both done tremendously well. So day 1 and 2 for both of them was their filming and feedback. So we filmed them, then we sat together, we went over their approaches, And it really hits home. It really hits home when you see yourself on camera and you see how your approaches are. And you're like, holy shit, is that how I approach? Is that how I stand, how I talk to people? Is that what I do with my hands? It's amazing that, if however much a coach can give you feedback and advice, it is a whole different experience when you see yourself on camera and you're like, okay, I absolutely need to change that. I do not like that in myself. And it's why like coaches do so well when they're filming with me, because if guys aren't aware, I am the cameraman and the director and editor for a lot of dating coaches that have passed through London. So, my name might not be so well known with the guys on YouTube, but absolutely with the dating coaches, they all have heard of me. I've got a load of testimonials from them on my other YouTube channel, on my Camera Dan. So maybe you've heard of that stage name from me rather than that Danxiety guy. But, I've worked with all the dating coaches over the last 15, 16 years. And I have filmed tens of thousands of approaches, believe it or not, both publicly and privately, content-wise for YouTube and also just for people's personal use, so they can sit back and they can watch the videos. Excuse me. And they can see themselves. So those were days 1 and 2 with the guys. And again, they're very, very different. And then their struggles as well are very different. So like my younger guy, well, I say younger, he's 31. He has a lot of limiting beliefs about himself. Unfortunately, he'd come out of a divorce before the lockdowns. And it meant that since then, when he moved to the UK, he just wasn't socialising. He wasn't going on any dates. So for him, on the first day that we went out, and he got a number off of a beautiful, I think she was Irish girl actually, because I should also state that he's Indian. He was like, Daniel, I don't believe Indian guys can get English girls. And then by the end of the day, he was like, that myth has gone now. I don't believe that anymore. And it was really good. And we had several like that, where he had this doubt, like, oh, it's not possible to just go up to someone and ask for a number. And he did it, and he got a number. And then there was another day this week, I think it was yesterday. He said to me, Daniel, I can't have a conversation. Or 2 days ago, I should say. He was like, Daniel, I can't have a conversation. I was like, yes, you can. He was like, I don't know how to ask a question. I was like, you do know how to ask a question. You just need to be put in a circumstance where you need to really find out something where it's going to benefit you. So I took him to Borough Market, and then we went together. We went up to different stalls and we were asking questions about the products. And he was showing interest. He was engaging. And in fact, we got a load of freebies from the stands because we were sort of chatting with them. We were having a laugh. I was sort of flirting with one or two of the staff on one of the stalls, and they even nearly forgot to actually charge us for a bit of cake, which was hilarious. But it was a really good learning experience for him. And then as we were walking down Southbank, I took a detour to St Paul's Cathedral, and just when we got over to the other side of the bridge, he stopped a Mexican girl, I think she was Mexican, and they had a conversation. And then he asked for the number, and she was like, "Oh, I'm sort of seeing." She was like, "I'm sort of seeing someone," and then he quizzed it. He was like, "Well, look, if it doesn't work out, if it's not serious, then I'd love to take you out sometime." And she gave him her number, and that was another realization to him, that sometimes, even if a girl says, "I'm seeing someone," you do have to challenge it. Is it just her kind of testing you? She's just seeing, like, how bold and courageous you are with asking her out? Or is she, genuinely being honest with it? And it's just really important, as he discovered, that actually it's good to just ask. There's no harm in asking. and finding out if someone is in a relationship or how serious it is. So he did a really good job, and he had a lot of these realizations, and he went out last night with, because he's staying in a hostel, he went out with a few people from the hostel, and there was a girl that he liked there, so I'm going to try and find out from him today like what went on, especially once I get into London. It's a bit of a walk to my station to get to before I end up travelling to Euston, but so I'm going to find out with him today. So for him, it's a lot more mindset stuff and just working incrementally on, you know, the foundations of a conversation. It was great that he was very quickly shifting from just asking people for directions and asking questions to wanting to give people compliments, and funny enough, he was more comfortable doing more complicated approaches than probably the simpler ones. Like, I think guys tend to struggle with trying to actually walk and talk with women, but he seemed okay with that, but he was a little bit more shy with actually having that conviction to stop someone. And I've also actually got something that I do with guys just to simplify even the stop as well, and then he eventually got that, which was great. I think, you know, even with what dating coaches, and I'm probably partially to blame here, helping them with it, but you know, all these different sort of stops and like where your hand needs to be and where your eye contact needs to be, and you've got to have an authoritative voice, and you know, you've got to be smiling, you've got to, you know, proximity wise and stuff. It's just way too much for a guy to think about, especially if he's got a lot of anxiety. All he's thinking about is like, oh my God, I've got to go and speak to this girl, and it needs to be simplified. So I have something that I kind of call just the wallet drop or the key drop approach, and just think about then the urgency of if you're going to go and stop someone, like, and it's really important that you stop them because they drop something really valuable. How would you stop them? And amazingly, you would literally just do it on autopilot. And the other things as well that I'm working on, because bless him, he's a little bit too serious. I'm getting him to smile more and sort of up his energy, and also he speaks pretty quietly, and he knows it, and hopefully he sort of watches this anyway. And I'm just constantly getting him to just bump his volume up to what we would all consider kind of a normal level. And I think when he can master just smiling a bit more and getting that volume and being just a little bit more enthusiastic, being a bit more enthusiastic with speaking to people, which he's absolutely doing really, really well with, then that will make all the difference in the world with girls stopping for him, having a conversation, him getting phone numbers, and hopefully him moving on to dates. And also being okay that when you come out, it's a lottery with speaking to people. You really do not know what a day is going to be like. And I've already appreciated that the guys have like kept track of how many approaches they're doing as well, and trying to maybe have a bit of a friendly competition between the two of them as I relay those numbers back and forth between them. And at least reminding them that, you know what, you might have a day where you'll just get constant rejections and you'll be out all day, and then you might have another day where you're out for like an hour or so and you will get the most incredible results. You'll get like constant phone numbers and stuff. There is no correlation on how well a day is going to go. I would say though, I've noticed when the weather is good, that does seem to increase your chances or statistics just slightly, but I do want guys to understand that there really is no correlation. But how you present yourself can make a difference. Your optimism can make a difference. And I guess the weather as well can make a difference with it. So yeah, really good with guy number one. That's essentially kind of like the stuff that we've been doing together. And I think so far, he's sort of been averaging between about 15 and 20 approaches a day. So we're now on what, Saturday? So minimum 30, 60, 75. He must have at least done about 80 or so, maybe 80 to 100 approaches already this week. And what's funny is like I don't know if I've noticed any change in myself, and I'm like, you definitely have. Did you imagine that you would be getting a British girl's number before you got started with it? He was like, no. and it's great. So the fact that he's been getting a couple of numbers and he's had a couple of Instagrams, and again, we've not even been really too worried about, do they materialize into anything? If he's not yet at that stage, if he needs to just still work on his conversation skills and get comfortable speaking to people, then that is what we work on. We are undoing years of bad habits and behavioural traits and mannerisms, and you can't just expect that things are going to change in one go for you. And I think there's a really good life lesson with that you have to give yourself time and patience and consistency to get good at something and be okay with it. Don't be so hard on yourself if you go out and you get rejections or if things go wrong. And I just think it's really important to remember that. So guy number 2, my older gentleman, who's 61, 62, he's had similar problems, but very, very different. So he had a long hiatus from approaching. So he said to me that the last time he did approaching on the street was, I think he said 2016. So he's had a good near decade of not doing anything. Now, he is a well-groomed guy. In fact, he kind of almost looks like he's in his early 40s. He looks so young for his age, considering he's in his early 60s. And I complimented him on that because it's fantastic. He's got good fashion sense, very simple and stuff, but looks really, really good. And if anything, he sort of proves definitely to the younger guys, you're never too old to go out and do approaching. And he was speaking to women who were easily a third of his age, around 20, 21, and he was still getting numbers, which was fantastic. I'm going to definitely try and get a testimonial for it. It was really, really fantastic. Now for him, what's been interesting is just the very minor things in his conversations. So for example, he doesn't always necessarily create an emotional spike or a sexual spike in the conversation, and also he had a bit of a bad habit where once he was stopping the women, he was saying I've stopped you for a moment because I want to give you a compliment. And I said to him, dude, you've stopped her to give her a compliment. You don't have to tell her that you're about to give her a compliment. Just give her the compliment. And that already made a bit of a difference to some of his interaction, believe it or not. But then once he was able to be aware of his the way and how he's speaking, because he's very, very philosophical, which I love, and even just the knowledge that he has as well about the world. He became a bit more aware of how he speaks, how he stands with his body language. Just needed slight tweaks because they were a little bit feminine, and just by tweaking them, already the girls were showing a bit more interest. I then also had to point out to him some of the conversations that he was having was a little bit old manny, and if you're watching this, I do apologise, but he knows it anyway, because he got talking to one beautiful German girl. This was in Covent Garden, who she'd come to see a Beyonce concert. I don't know whereabouts in London that was, but so she came. So she was literally here for a short time. She was just looking around, and he could have taken her for potentially taken her for a date. She was single, but very quickly in the interaction, they started talking about the war. Guys, don't talk about wars if you're about to chat up girls. Always make sure though that you try and keep conversations very positive, because you don't want to create some sort of association where you talk to a girl and you ask her out on a date and she's thinking, well, if I go on a date with this guy, either he's going to be talking about really negative topics or he's not going to be very optimistic and it's not going to be a fun experience. So it's just important to just be aware to keep conversations sort of a bit lighter and a bit more optimistic in some form. So yeah, it was a shame with that, and I pointed out to him and said I wouldn't have spoken to her about the war, and also with just how he was asking for a date as well, almost sounded like he was just networking with people. So he would have very intellectual conversations with plenty of women, again of all ages, and then how he would lead to asking for the number. He would say, look, I have to go, I've got to go meet up with my friend, but I would love to continue this conversation over a coffee. And I kind of pointed out to him that it just sounds a little bit too casual. It doesn't really kind of give the impression that you're looking to actually go on a date with the girl. It just kind of sounds like you're just looking to sort of network and make friends. And he was like, you're absolutely right. And we saw that as well in some of the video footage when I filmed it. And then the easy tweak for that was just making it very clear that he found the girl really cute and he wanted to take them out on a date. So just still might be a coffee date, but just changing the wording from coffee to date, and also just adding in some emotional spike, and even saying, in fact, I've got an exercise that I like to do with guys as well. Like, before you go and ask for the phone number, you have to discover 3 interesting things about the girl, and before you ask them out on a date, I want you to recall those 3 things, so it also demonstrates that you are actively listening, and also you've kind of justified like why you want to ask her out. I really like this about you. I love that you're from Poland. I love that you're studying this thing. I find that really fascinating, and I love that you're in London going to a music event, because you know, I admire people who are that independent. Oh, I've got to definitely, I'd love to take you out sometime. Just something like that, just as a very basic skill, or just as a basic exercise, can also make a difference, because you're justifying why you want to ask for the phone number. And then of course, if you have any sort of objection, such as if she says like, oh, I'm not sure, I've got a boyfriend, or I'm only here for a limited amount of time, then something else that I gave my older client was saying to him, like, well, look, to handle that sort of objection, why not say, well, look, take my number, and it would be great to see you in the time that you're here. If not, absolutely no worries, no obligation whatsoever. Or saying, you know what, let me take your number and drop you a message. And if you want to respond to it, amazing, I'd love to take you out. If not, that's okay too. You know, and maybe even making a joke about it. I mean, I sometimes make a joke and say, like, I'm going to buy some Ben and Jerry's and probably sit and watch Bridget Jones's Diary or something, and that usually gets a little bit of a giggle, depending on who I'm speaking to and if they get my my dry sense of humour. So, yeah, there was certainly a few things to change with them. I mean, I would have loved to have worked with my older gentleman yesterday and then had his final session today. But as he's off to Barcelona tomorrow morning, I think, and he had to sort out a load of errands and stuff, it's fine. I'm going to be doing my final 2 days with him in about a fortnight when he comes back. But my other client, my younger client, I've got a few hours with him today, and then a few hours with him tomorrow. And I'm going to be slowly shifting now to encouraging him to be approaching on his own without me pushing him into those interactions, because ultimately every bit of coaching that I do with a guy, especially over like the 7 days, is one, to remove the bad habits and mannerisms they have, and second, to just get them confident and comfortable to go and approach people on their own and get that ball rolling. It has been incredibly successful with everyone I've worked with so far, and I love it. And that's what I'm going to do with my client today. Although what I would have loved to have done like yesterday was I wanted to create a bit more of a healthy competition between the 2 clients by getting my older client to basically try and do as many approaches as he possibly could. And then today it would have been my younger client, my 31-year-old, to have tried to beat him with it, because I love gamifying this sort of stuff. I think it makes it so much more fun and interesting when you take the pressure off of yourself and there's some extra accountability to take action. Because as I said to my younger client, you know, you don't want a guy who's double your age beating you at cold approaching, do you? You want to kind of like rub it in his face a little bit, in a really nice way though, of course. But so I'm going to say I might try and encourage my younger client to try and do as many approaches today. So at least then when I see my older one in a couple of weeks, there is a little bit of competition there. But ultimately I want to start shifting me pushing him into interactions to him going into interactions on his own. it's also got me thinking of another story. We saw the most beautiful girl down, very slim, quite tall, brunette, blue eyes, absolutely lovely. And he was like, that's the most beautiful woman I think I've ever seen. And I said to him, right, go and talk to her. And for those that don't know where Villiers Street is, that's the kind of like hill that goes down towards Embankment Station. And he was like frozen to the spot. He was like, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. And I like jogged a little bit, and then I sort of like dragged him along, and then eventually he started jogging. And in fact, kinetic energy is a very, very important one as well, guys, for overcoming anxiety. You have to be moving. I don't care if you go 90% of the way to the girl and then change your mind, but you have to be moving. If you stop, if you stand still, you're only going to get glued to the spot, and then that anxiety bubble is going to kind of consume you, and you're not going to do anything at all, and you're just going to be literally like frozen there. And when I say anxiety bubble, that's kind of part of my process of teaching guys to understand that, you know, when you first come out, the longer you leave doing an approach, or the longer you leave speaking to people, it kind of feels like a shield or a bubble sort of surrounds you, and you start getting more and more enclosed in it. And I've got a video on my channel just recently in the last week. It's a 3-part series, and part 1 is about the anxiety bubble, so do please check that out if you're struggling to get started with speaking to people, even if it's just to actually go and talk to strangers, not even for anything dating related, but just to go and speak to people. It's just a really, really good concept. I love it. I've used it for a while, and it makes a difference for guys when they have an understanding, and it's explained in a way that's so like, it's almost purposely to sound childish, like it's like not intimidating at all. I mean, when you think about bubbles, you think about like the most ridiculous thing. So yeah, I've been helping him with that, but no, he was then running down the street and he spoke to her, and you know, he gave her a compliment. She was like, she was so flattered that he stopped her, and she was like, though, oh, I've got a boyfriend though, and he said that he's a very lucky guy, and she just absolutely loved it as well. Absolutely loved it. So I was so pleased how it went. And maybe in fact as another lesson is that usually the most beautiful women, they are probably more friendly. They're very friendly, and they will absolutely have a conversation with you, or be incredibly polite. In fact, I think probably the more pretty that she is, the nicer they tend to be as well. So I don't know if there's a correlation with that, but I have noticed something of the sort. So yeah, so today I'm going to sort of shift getting him to do more approaches, and letting him to pick on his own as well, because ultimately when he leaves me to go back up north, because he's from Edinburgh, or well, he's living in Edinburgh, he's actually from India, but he's living in Edinburgh, I want him to be able to have that courage, or find that courage to go and approach on his own, because he won't have my voice, you know, telling him like, look, you got to go do it, don't let her go, don't regret it, and then see what happens. Right, it's really windy now, and I've just also realised I've forgotten to take my hay fever tablets. Right, this will be a very interesting day, I think. So yeah, so I'm kind of nearing my station now, and guys, as like a final plug, like if you are looking to actually work on your dating life, if you're looking to actually work on your confidence and meet people, then by all means do reach out. My cold approach coaching, especially my 7 days, is designed to help you with everything. It's not just with dating, it's to be able to socialize, it's to make friends. That's one of the things that I really like with cold approaching, is that it is a fast track to getting you to where you want to be. And even if you want to see what you look like whilst you're approaching as well, you know, I've got my filming and feedback service, which really will give you a huge wake up to seeing what you look like and how the world sees you, especially how the girls see you when you're talking to them, to flirt with them and hopefully try and get their number for a date. So I have all these services available, so do please, you know, check them out on my channel. Check them out on my website, I should say. And I've got loads of free videos on my channel to help you guys. I do apologize that I don't really have many in fields. As you'll see on the three-part series, I have my friend film, and everything's just ridiculously overexposed, and that's my fault because I didn't quite train him enough. We didn't have enough time really, and he did the best he could. But I mean, all you can do really is just hear my voice shrouded in a white light, which looks like an explosion's gone off in the background, and I've just like disappeared into the distance or even very close. But I am going to try my best to get some content out for you, because I really do believe that having in-field content is so important. And also I'm going to try and interview the guys as well, so you can hear their experience of doing my 7-day coaching. And if you really want to catch the women in their summery dresses and in the best of mood and stuff, then do consider like reaching out sooner than later, or actually doing coaching sooner than later. Get those bad habits and mannerisms out of the way. Develop a routine, give yourself some time, and consider where you could be in a month, 3 months, 6 months, a year's time, if you commit to making the changes. And I simplify it as well. I don't tend to try and make things complicated. I want guys to, find a process that works for them, and at their pace as well. But at least working with me, I will get you where you want to get to. And hopefully then you'll be calling me up in like a month's time saying, Daniel, I've got a girlfriend. Or like, I've got a date with a really, really cute girl. And I love really hearing those stories. So look, I'm at the train station now. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Dan, that Danxiety guy. And I need to get the Oyster card out of my pocket now. So I will confirm with you guys how things go maybe tomorrow or on Monday.